Okay, let me go back up to the agenda.
Okay, we are ready for the management report.
Just a minute while I scroll down here. Okay, so you have June 30 financials. Paul reviewed some of the GLs, but I'll go over the actual treasurer's report on the balances of accounts. As far as year-to-date expenses, the associations within budget providing a positive variance at this time of $7,278.92. Delinquencies have increased 4.6%. That's due to a certain account that is delinquent. It has been forwarded over to the attorney to proceed with collections. As far as the park fence project, I have Legacy Fencing that has the proposal. They're going back and they're going to update the keyless entry. We've been in conversation about that. I also will be meeting Summit Fence on site next week. They're going to take a look at it. Basically what the industry is sharing with me, all the contractors are sharing with me is the cost, the expense for material and availability is really limited, and they're having issues with keeping staff on. So it's been a real struggle, not just with fencing, but also I'm hearing the same feedback from landscaping as well. The arborist report has been updated. At this point, the board can review and discuss if you're going to approve the report as it has been provided and updated. And then there was previous discussion of forwarding that over to the county for approval, and then developing a tree plan, a tree maintenance plan. The graffiti that was reported has been removed. That's in the second pond as well as on the dock. There was some graffiti. As far as conversations go with Century, they're no longer going to negotiate with Cantergrove at Long Lake. They are going to move forward with selling Division 5 and not having access to the park. And they have expressed that they are no longer going to do any maintenance within Cantergrove. The shared use agreement has been sent over, received to the board, and emailed to Century. As far as Nisqually towing, I find that really interesting, the conversation that occurred. It's really shocking. So I will be following up with Nisqually because there's very specific instructions that were provided, and then the contract that was their own contract that they provided with the understanding they would be towing at the park and that's private property. And they were sent the, as far as the rules and regulations and policies for, the agreement with the board. So that's very surprising to me that they had that conversation with Jen. So I'm going to ask, just to confirm, the person that you spoke to, his name was Tony. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as the CPA and audit, for the annual audit, I was really curious how this was going to come back because this is a blended year from the declarant to owner board. So it just got under owner control as of September of last year. So this is always the most interesting audit to see how things were handled. And the one thing that it speaks towards is that third quarter shortfall that Century ended up catching up with in February of this year with Cantergrove at Long Lake. As far as the storm pond on site, Monarch has that scheduled. That'll be completed by the end of next week for the rear storm pond. And the Scotch broom and weeds and everything in the oak preserves, Monarch had provided proposal for, and I know we were waiting to hear back if Century was gonna contribute towards that, which they are not. So that concludes my management report.
Okay, I have to apologize because I did totally skip the committee reports, but there are a couple of items that I want to come back to on the management report after we do the committee reports. One of them being I would like to discuss and list all of the issues with the landscaping. And then I would like to discuss the news from Century and how that, because this is the first time also hearing of that, and how that changes what we do moving forward on all the work that has to get done and why that happened. That's very disappointing. So my apologies. We will go back to let's do the committee reports really quickly. We can start with the compliance committee. Eric, do you have anything besides nominating members to the compliance committee?
Yes, ma'am. Would you like me to lead with the nomination or lead with the report?
Why don't you read with the report and then we'll do the nominations.
All right. So the majority of Mays townhomes, they're not townhomes, the Mays strip of homes that have the preserve, quote unquote, preserve in the front lawn. I've been working with the homeowners directly to resolve the specifics associated with those lots and look forward to publication of, for lack of a better term, a handbook that's specific to those lots that's conducive to the agreement of the majority of the lot owners there concerning the do's and don'ts pertaining to requests for information that they provided me that I forwarded to Thurston County, and the Thurston County Environmental Committee actually staffed the heck out of that thing and provided a detailed response specific to each question that the owners had, and that's been forwarded back or will be forwarded back to provide concise do's and don'ts for what they can and cannot do in those areas. Look forward to minor amendments being proposed in the following months to the rules that we have in place for those lots. Moving on, compliance. Let me check my notes real quick. There's a list of violations that was provided to the management trust on 1 February that are still yet to be dispatched as compliance notices, as first complimentary notices, and that needs resolved. One of them, I believe, will be an executive session discussion that we can have later. And that's it for the report.
Okay. Next, let's make our nominations. I have not spoken to Joe Gasper. Does he want to be on the committee? Is he willing to do it?
Yes, ma'am. I vetted the idea with these 3 individuals and got a positive feedback before I proffered the idea to you, ma'am.
Okay, because I did get an email from Catherine said that she is not interested in being on the compliance committee.
Fair enough. That's new information to me. So
Okay.
I'll get that and nominate the other 2.
Okay, and then the other thing with Jen is because she's your wife and you are on the compliance committee, she cannot be on the compliance committee.
I was going to make that motion too. I think volume versus who's on it is more important. So maybe I recuse myself from the committee and you have more volume available to you for the committee, because there's a lot involved in the compliance committee. It's actually a good conversation to have, and you're the president. It's your choice.
Well, we can't have, because it's a double vote for one lot. It's just one of those things with HOAs. Yeah. You're not supposed to have spouses on the same committee.
Oh, I will gladly take myself out, because
I mean, that's fine. I
think you're working with Tessa. Okay. I think there's a lot more value in adding those people than me being on the committee. I truly do. Okay.
So who's going to be the lead? I guess we can discuss that next later. Between Jamie, are you still going to be on the compliance committee?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to have a motion to add Joe Gasper and Jen Hunter to the compliance committee and remove Eric Hunter from the compliance committee.
Before we do that, can I just ask a question that is
absolutely
just my own person? you know, I'm just wondering. So my only concern with having the same people on the compliance committee that are on the ACC committee is, are they then enforcing kind of their own rules, and does that need to be broadened? I'm just opening up for discussion. I don't know exactly how I feel about it. I just wanted to put it out there. If maybe somebody could provide some information that would be of benefit to have those people on both committees that do very similar things. One person reviews what they can do and the other person comes through and says you didn't do it. So it's kind of like the same people are getting the same information out in the neighborhood. Thoughts there?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely,
this is
Jamie.
Paul.
I
One
would
thought.
second, hey, this is Serena Davis, and I would
Whoa.
absolutely second that. I think that that's a concern.
Thank you, Serena, but only board members are allowed to speak during the meeting. Thank you for your comment.
Jamie,
Go ahead.
I'll start by saying where I came up with the idea.
Okay.
So working compliance, I was working with Tessa, and certain situations arose to where, is it a compliance or is it an architectural review? There's some standing issues in that same category. I think this actually helps Tessa do her job and kind of makes it more efficient for her to coordinate with similar people rather than trying to filter out who's who and what's what. I think Heather LaDue is probably the best person to kind of advise us here on if there's any conflict of interest, but I see it as an efficiency issue, and it's more efficient for Tessa. I don't know her title. I'm not trying to disrespect her.
Yeah.
For Tessa to have more of a single point of contact to do her job as a paid employee.
I totally understand what you mean about streamlining it and having to explain the same situation to somebody else. That, I mean, I can definitely relate to how irritating that is, but I just wonder if, if having a different point of view, I mean, if that's the case, maybe we don't need a compliance committee. Can we just say the compliance committee is the same as the art committee? I don't know. Because it seems like to have two committees with the same people on it just seems really redundant.
Heather LaDue, do you have any thoughts or comments?
Yes, I was going to jump in. So generally speaking, you do want to keep your committees separate for those that are volunteers on the committee. And Margaret's correct. You don't want to have a husband and wife or partners. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be husband and wife, but have partners that reside in the same home on one committee, because the governing documents is one vote, one lot. And so it just helps keep that clean. I understand Eric's positioning on efficiency and, in streamlining communication. However, it is important to keep the committees separate because architectural is dealing with the home and home improvements as far as major changes. And then it does layer with the compliance with enforcement and timeline of completion. And then also to keep accountability, say if a owner wants to repaint their home and they make a suggestion and they get approved on a paint palette and then paint their house a different color, which has happened, and then that compliance kicks in there with the review. So it is a layered relationship between architectural and compliance. However, it is for bias reasons to keep members on both committees separate, so that you have separate perspectives and review and feedback into the community as well.
So you recommend that we go look for other members to staff the compliance committee?
Yeah, I would recommend that members that are on the architectural are solely focused on architectural, and members that are on compliance are for the compliance. And then basically what will end up happening is management will work with both of them in conjunction with them. Once we do a site visit, we layer those reports to track architectural and make sure that they're abiding by what they were previously approved for, and then and timelines of completions too.
Can I ask a question about the compliance committee's role? Would that take the place, Heather, of your visiting the site and making the recommendations? They
No,
would be doing that? Oh,
no. Management still does a monthly site visit. That's part of our contract, is our inspections. So what happens in other HOAs that's very common is that management will do an inspection and we have a list, and depending on the relationship of involvement with the board and management, some volunteers would like to walk the property, and layer the inspection, because we do drive through, and so, if a volunteer is walking through, they may catch something that we might miss, or if there's a car blocking our view, we might have missed it, or, there's just some variables. So, but the compliance committee would not replace management's monthly inspection.
so then what would the compliance committee be doing? Just basically what Eric and I are doing, the review of what you guys submit to us to say, yes, we are okay with those, or please further explain this. Is that kind of their role then, instead of the board doing it?
Yes, exactly. And if you catch something that might not have been on the list, if something that didn't happen while we were on site, or it was reported from another owner, then you would relay that back to management, and then we would include that and issue out a notice.
Okay, thank you.
This
You're
is
welcome.
Paul. I have a question for Heather. Is it true the committees, do they make up the rules, or do they enforce
So,
or do they enforce
So-
the codes that the board has already approved?
So depending on the homeowners association or condo association, you can do an ad hoc committee that will specialize and focus on a specific item, or like your compliance committee or architectural committee, they can draft policies, but ultimately the decision, review, and approval comes from the board.
So they
And then you
can
can,
make up their own rules then.
well, it's all comes down to the governing documents. So your fundamental base is your CC&Rs, your governing documents. And then you can elaborate on that with, like the compliance and architectural committee. The board can approve policies. So you can have compliance, since the compliance committee their passion is, taking care of the community, making sure things are neat and orderly. And you can have members of the compliance committee, because generally speaking, you'll have one chair, a board member that will be a part of the committee, and they will be the liaison when they come back and speak to the board. So as far as taking that as an example, the compliance committee could draft a house rules and regs or enforcement house rules and regs for the board to review, but ultimately the responsibility falls on the board to approve it.
They can suggest rules to the board, but the board
Yes.
can approve them or disapprove them.
Yes.
I mean, basically, they're just enforcing the CC&Rs and those compliance rules that we worked on earlier this year and
Yeah,
exactly.
approved. So
Yes.
Published rules, and the architectural committee has guidelines that are published.
yeah.
That sounds pretty black and white to me. Margaret,
Yeah.
I'm not on a committee currently. Could I volunteer to be on that compliance committee?
Sure, I think if Eric is going to step off, I think we don't want more than 2 board members on there.
I'm not
Um,
stepping off at the advice of Heather LaDue that we socialize this thing with the neighborhood to get a separate extension of
Okay.
manpower. So I'm staying on until
Okay.
we can extend this. The only reason I offered to come off was the conflict of interest, and now that that's been voided, let's
Yeah.
socialize this to get more people on the committee, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Thanks for saving
Okay.
the time, Eric.
Okay, well then, I will not ask for that motion. We're going to keep the compliance committee as is for now. Everyone listening, if you're interested in serving on the compliance committee, please let me know or Eric know.
Can I add one thing real quick, Margaret?
Yes, go
before we leave
ahead.
That topic.
Yes.
Would it be possible, and just to kind of speak to what Camber had said earlier about, maybe getting more information out to the membership, would that be something that we could ask Tessa to do a blast email to the homeowners and say, hey, we're looking to start a compliance committee. Please email us at this contact so we know you're interested and we can talk about those people at the next meeting?
Yeah, I will send her a little blurb, if it's okay with Heather LaDue, I will send a blurb tomorrow that will get blasted.
Yeah, just go ahead and email that to me directly and I will task her on that. I'm just taking action item notes now.
Okay,
Thank you guys for volunteering anyway, Joe and Jennifer. That is a huge job, as Eric said. So thank you guys for
thank you.
being
Yes,
willing to do it.
Yes, thank you, Joe and Jen. Okay, next we have the Architectural Committee. Is there anyone here from the Architectural Committee who would like to give the report?
I'll be giving the report.
Thank you.
The ARC had 10 total project requests for the month of June. There was a walkway that needed more information, driveway expansion that was denied, where another application got submitted for the driveway expansion and it moved forward to appeal to the board. There were 6 completed approved projects, including an AC unit, exterior lights, landscape changes. Completed, denied. There was an AC unit that was confirmed completed, a driveway expansion that was denied, as mentioned previously. We just ask and remind the Management Trust to provide monthly reports to the ARC, also to effectively review homeowner applications prior to sending them for ARC review and approval. Make sure that the entire application is completed before it does come to ARC for approval. We would also like to remind homeowners that ARC applications are required for projects requiring approval, not completed and planned for future. Completed projects outside of ARC approval defer to compliance review from the board.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Is there anyone here from the Social Committee who would like to give a report?
Hey, this is Jim Swartz. I don't know if anybody else is on, but I know we had a pretty low cost Independence Day chalk art event, and I thought it went very well and was fun for the folks that participated. And look forward to trying to find some more low cost events that we can kind of build our community with around here.
Yes, thank you, Jim, for helping to organize that. And I love a box of chalk. That was great. Now we are done with the committees. Heather, can we return to the 2 issues that I pointed out from your report? Can we start with landscaping? And can we just make a list of all of the issues that we would like Monarch to address?
Yes, absolutely.
Have you had a lot of complaints from homeowners about these issues?
Yeah, I have. Recently, I would say over the course of the last few weeks, we've gotten a lot of feedback, especially following the proposals that were given with the cleanup of the Oak Preserve and the parking strips. I know that the last couple months, actually, the board and management have been talking about this, and I've been communicating with Monarch. They said that they were working on the irrigation and that it should have been done, but Kat did provide me feedback that it still wasn't on the correct schedule, and that was a few days ago that she and I had spoken. And so I had sent, or I believe it was like last week, I have been in contact with Jeff at Monarch. And to my understanding, they've had it repaired, but that is not the case. So they had shared with me that they had gotten a handle on it. I mentioned to them about the detail and the weeds, and suggested if a different day is better, because I know that they were doing maintenance on trash day. And so I had made that suggestion. If they change the day, their crew isn't having to worry about working around the trash cans, and maybe that would create some more efficiency for them to mow. It's discouraging hearing that their response to an owner was that they're just there to mow. I'm sure that Jeff and the higher ups would not appreciate that kind of comment. So we have the irrigation, that's an issue, and the detail in the parking strips. And I did bring to their attention the trees, the stress on the trees last time I was on site this past week, that the areas still are looking really burned out. And certain streets are definitely under some serious stress. So outside of that,
I'm confused on the irrigation, because one of the emails that you sent to us was that they were all set, and I don't remember the days of the week exactly, but that they were all set for morning times, because that way they wouldn't get damaged, and that they would, be done before people, done in the cool of the day, and all of that, which I agree with. But then I have also seen it going off during the day. So I was confused about that. At least along my street, they do seem to be working, which is good, because I know that they were broken. But then some other things like the weeds. I don't know if they're going to come through and weed, or if they're supposed to treat it. Is that correct? And that might take more time.
Yeah, they will treat the weeds. Normally they'll do like a moss treatment too. And that's seasonal. So they come through and they'll spray.
And that's in the contract, correct? It's already what we're paying for is basically what I'm asking.
Well, weeding should be in the contract. As far as treating for moss, when they do a big aeration and moss treatment, that's typically outside of the contract. But weeding should be in the contract.
Okay, so what about things like pruning the trees? I have a tree right across the street from me that has all those little baby trees trying to come up in the roots.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that with all the suckers down at the bottom. I will follow up with them on that, because I did see that on Water Lily when I was doing my inspection.
And then what about making a proposal to replace, we have 2 tree spots that are actually missing trees. I believe there's 2.
Okay.
That the trees have died, and so one of them got pulled out, one of them got cut off, and it's been like that as far as I know since I've moved here.
Okay.
So we're replacing those trees. And then the other thing I was going to ask about Monarch is, when are they going to do the storm pond 1, the first big storm pond? Because that one's starting to look kind of gross. It's got lots of stuff growing in it.
Okay, I will follow up with the front storm pond.
It would be nice if we had a published time when they're going to do this. If they can publish a time where they're going to do this maintenance in these storm ponds and these things over time, just put it on a calendar, and then we know when it's not getting done.
Normally, well, this was the first year, so I don't know who Century had do it before. This was the first year with the owner board. Generally speaking, storm ponds are maintained 2 times a year, once at spring and once at fall. I know that we've had a lot of conversation back and forth to Century, trying to get them to take care of some of the things while it was under declarant control, which is, with those communications, it just, the back and forth has delayed things a little bit. But as far as maintenance goes, it is within their contract. They have a maintenance calendar of let me see if I can pull it up. They have a maintenance calendar that you can review, and it shows how many times they go during the month, different seasons, with regular maintenance that they have.
We are highly aware. So I missed last month's meeting. I reviewed the minutes and saw that this board adopted and approved for the the southernmost storm pond to be cleaned out, and it's not clean, and that was last month's meeting. Everything we're saying right now about this contract is in their contract to do, and it's not being done.
So as far as the storm pond, that's scheduled for this month. But the board, I mean, if you'd like to do another property walk with them, we can do that. Or if the board wants to go out to bid for a different landscape contract, you know, we can do that as well.
Heather, in November, you, me, Paul, Jeff's boss, and Jeff's boss's boss walked the property, and it was clear what the requirements were and what their understanding was. It's not getting done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need to go out to bid.
Jamie, do you have any thoughts or comments?
I was just looking at Heather, your, I can't remember what it's called, the list of things that you're working on. And it was, you were saying that in May, they have new leadership over there. Rick is now there. And then Josh. Have
Right,
you
they've had changes internally.
Okay. So like Eric was saying, I mean, if you guys have already walked it, these issues keep coming up. Do you think that, I mean, honestly, do you think you're going to get a response when you go and tell them all of these things that we're making a list of today? And do you get a feel from them that they will take care of it this time?
Well, I mean, it's definitely, they follow up with me. The follow-up is there, but it's the follow through. That's what I'm getting,
That's the part
is
we
that
pay
the
for.
just the follow through.
Heather, we pay you.
Well, I think that my concern is that if you're telling them what to do and then they say, cool, we've got your list, we're going to do all of it. They say they do it, and then they come back and they say they do it, and then we go and we look and we say they haven't done it. Then
Right.
I don't know, can we be involved in the yes, today it was done? What do you guys think? Can we have like if this guy just started in May, there haven't been very many situations where we've actually been involved with this person in management. If he is willing to say that, communicate more with the people that are walking past the problems every day, the board, to say, hey, this was done today. These are the things that were done. That John walked over and cut this bush down. Tony walked over and did this. Like, is there any way we could just get follow-up like that? That's a little bit more timely.
So Josh is an arborist. He's not your project manager is Jeff, who everybody met when we walked the community. So Josh is the new arborist for the area, and Jeff is your project manager.
He's been the same person the whole time then?
Correct.
Okay.
Heather,
Yeah.
Rick was on site that time too. Rick is either Jeff's boss or Jeff's boss's boss.
No, Rick is in a totally different department. Hans, the one that we met, Hans is Jeff's boss.
So basically the people that have taken over have nothing to do with us. So the fact that
that's not true. No. So Josh has been newly appointed to the territory for the arborist division. Rick is Josh's boss, but he has been promoted, and then his focus is more of Oregon. And so Josh has been appointed the Washington division. And so that's why what they brought to my attention, well, there was a delay because of Rick's availability and then this transition, and then Josh was appointed, and now we have a new updated arborist report. Jeff has always been on the account since we've taken over. I don't know if he was on the account under Century, but since we took over in September, Jeff is the project manager for Cantergrove.
So I guess my point is that the problems that we're seeing are related nothing to do with trees. The comments from today have only to do with Jeff's area, right?
Right.
So so the fact that other leadership has changed shouldn't be impacting what we've been telling the same person for several months.
Right.
Okay.
So I have two other things to add to the list that Margaret was doing. I don't think I heard that the grass down at the park, there's a section that's totally dead that for some reason it's not getting watered. The other question I have is when you're walking through the community on the sidewalks, the trees are really overgrowing the sidewalks. Is there a way, Heather, we can get them to trim those trees back a little bit or up a little bit so people can actually walk past the tree on the sidewalk?
Yeah, technically, the trees, they'll prune them once a year. Since they were so young, I know there's a period of time that they have to allow them to get established. So, so they do get a little out of control, so to speak, for a short period of time so that they can become established. But rule of thumb, over sidewalk, it should be 8 feet high and the road should be 14 feet high. So
Well, I'm
when
5'9" and
I
have to
follow
duck.
up, what's that?
I said I'm 5'9" and I have to duck.
Yeah, well, I know the canopy, I know that the canopy of these trees is low to begin with. I mean, they're small trees as far as height goes. But I will follow up with Monarch as far as scheduling the tree pruning. That's typically as needed. And I know they want to allow them to get established before they start pruning back. But I have that on the list. For right now, I'm just going to review the list real quick to make sure that I'm following everyone.
Okay.
For one, the irrigation, the scheduling, we need to get a handle on that because there's still reports that it is happening during the day. Trees are looking stressed. There's still a significant amount of weeds. Pruning of the trees, replace the 2 locations on installing replacement trees. And then front storm pond cleaning, when is that going to be done? And park maintenance, there's dead grass in an area that we need to double check what's being touched by the water.
And on
Can
the
you also
irrigation,
add weeding?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, just can you add weeding to that?
Yeah, I did weeds.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I was just going to add on the irrigation. If I understood one of the homeowners correctly, she was saying that her side of the street was not being watered as often as the other side of the street.
Right, that was on 20th.
Yes. So just to make sure that it's all set up properly. And then kind of in this, kind of not, the governor declared a state of drought yesterday. What is that going to mean for the landscaping and all of that? Do you know? I didn't see any specific rules published.
Oh, well, it's going to come through the city and county on restrictions, so it may restrict the amount of watering.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll just have to wait for those rules to come in then before we address that. Okay, and so next, is that everybody with, everybody,
No.
do we want to go out to bid for landscapers? Is that something we want to? Yeah.
Margaret, can we see the currently signed contract, please? Like right now? I want to see I just want to see the termination clause. So Margaret signed a contract around February or so. I haven't seen it. The TMT signed contract had a clause in there that was a 30-day no cause notice. I just want to see whether we have a for cause or no for cause notice on Monarch.
Hold on. You guys should have this. It was emailed to everybody. I'll look back at my emails. I know I emailed this to everybody, but hold on a minute because I'm working off of two laptops.
I mean, I just don't have this signed contract. I just have the signed page where I sign and then I scan it, just that one page. I don't have the full contract.
Well, that probably has the clause I'm looking for. So in an email, you said that the termination clause was we have to provide remedy or elicit discrepancies and give them 30 days to provide remedy. And if they don't, then we can terminate the contract. The previous contract was a 30-day no cause, saying that we just had to provide them 30-day notice and we can replace them. So I want to see which one we're currently under contract for.
And if it's a 30-day remedy, we could say we're giving them 30 days now with the list of remedies we just are publishing.
What I'm getting to is if we don't have a 30-day requirement to give them an opportunity to remedy, then let's go.
Hold on just a moment. I'm getting this over. And we can, in executive session, we can discuss the details of the landscape contract.
This is not
So we
about
can add that to executive session.
This is about a service contract that every member of the community pays for. It's not private conversation.
Yeah, there's no private conversation in that.
Is the contract public information? Heather, in your experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's public information. The owners can have it. We're just getting really off the agenda. So I'm trying to keep the board on the agenda and we can separate time to as far as, discussing the contract within executive session, and then we can reopen an open session, but we're rabbit trailing off the agenda. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like a motion, if we just want to make a motion to go ahead and at least get the
I know
bids.
what the clause is. My motion is based on whether they have if we have a contractual requirement to give them a 30-day remedy, or if we can give them a 30-day notice and find a replacement.
Well, I'm just saying that we can make a motion to go get bids and in the meantime, see what happens. And then after we choose the next contract, then cancel this contract. That's all I'm saying.
Margaret, if you provide the signed contract to me and the rest of the board and the members of the community, I will make a motion for you.
I think that's a little bit, I mean, if she wasn't prepared to have the contract, it's a little bit unfair to request that of her right now.
You were included in the email. I requested this contract about a week ago.
Exactly.
It should be.
It's not
It
a
should not be a
surprise.
secret to the community.
Okay.
All right, well, like I said, I don't have the signed contract. Because all I do is sign it and
Okay, Margaret.
forward the signature page to Heather.
I make a motion to provide Monarch a 30-day notice of termination based on the terms of the contract.
I think that we should have our ducks in a row and have the next landscaper lined up before we do that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Now we get to discuss it and vote.
Okay. I think we should have our another landscaper lined up before we fire the one we have.
I emailed the contract out to everybody as far as the separated sign page and the contract. So you guys should have that in your email. If you would like to stop share for a minute, because I dropped it into my personal email, and then I can pull that document up on this laptop.
Okay, how do I stop share? There you go.
It's downloading right now.
And even
I
if
got
we
it.
give
So-
them a 30-day notice, that doesn't mean we have to stop with them after 30 days. We can go week to week with those folks.
Is that in the contract?
But then the price is going to go up and their service is going to get even worse.
Heather, you provided the signature page
Uh-huh.
signed by
And
Mark 11/23/20, which doesn't have what I'm looking for. And then the other contract is signed by, I don't know, Century, dated.
okay, hold on. Hold on, I'm opening up the documents right now.
Okay, this has it. Okay, so Margaret's signature page has the clause that 30-day notice, right? Okay, so that's where we're at, right? So my motion is to provide Century a 30-day notice to remedy all the things that we just talked about, and upon their failure to do so, they'll be subject to termination. That's the motion.
Can I have a second?
Could you repeat it one more time, Eric?
Yes, sir. Per the termination clause just above the section 9 of what was just provided by email, they're required, or we are required to provide a 30-day notice, provide them a list, and give them 30 days to remedy their deficiencies. And if they do not do so, then they are subject to termination of the contract and given an additional 30-day notice. So it's a 60-day termination clause.
I'll second
My motion
that.
is that we approve with that clause.
Yeah, I'll
that
second
notice.
that and add that this will light a fire under their butts.
Can I have a second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay, sorry, Paul, you seconded. Heather and Jamie, do you have any comments?
How long is it going to take, Heather LaDue, for us to find another company?
We would go out to bid now. So
And
we
what's the-
would,
Okay.
we would utilize this 30-day window to go out to bid and talk to landscapers as far as collecting RFPs for Cantergrove at Long Lake. So we can go off of this scope, and if there's anything the board wants to add to the maintenance, we need to have that conversation, and I think we need to have something anchored down, by beginning of next week, so we can utilize Friday, Monday, and Tuesday and get an RFP really squared away for you guys, and then go out to bid and just know that, with the anticipation that they may not meet that 30-day window of expectations for the board, because this has been ongoing.
Okay. Are there going to be any issues with getting other landscapers?
Yeah,
Just with everything going on with the park, that's
Right.
why I'm asking.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really not going to know until we go out. I know that within the landscape industry, the one thing that not just Monarch, but some other landscapers have expressed to me is just employees, that people are quitting, or they're being let go for whatever reason. They're going on unemployment and they're collecting more money while sitting on unemployment than they are working. So it's just hard to get labor. That's the only thing that other companies have expressed to me within this period of time right now. But I mean, we have a handful of landscapers that, we can talk about. If you don't want to have Monarch included in the bidding process at all, that's one approach. You can have them rebid, and then go out to several others. We can go out to 3 to 4 other landscape companies.
Okay. Sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Eric, can you run that timeline by me one more time? You said we give them 30 days and then 30 days and then 30 days after that. So like you said, it's for sure 2 months that we have this contract.
It's a 30 and a subsequent 30, right? So assuming that Management Trust provides them notice effective tomorrow's date, right? That's Friday. So 16 to 16 is their 30-day notice to remedy all the stuff that we provide, which we need to do so in this meeting, so that Heather has a way forward. And then if they are not compliant and do not remedy everything on that list within those 30 days, they're served with a second 30-day notice for termination, and we move forward. So we actually have 60 days to acquire a new contractor. And we have one motion on the table to vote on. And the second motion that I would have is that I retain control over the bidding process for the request for proposals.
So if we get to the end of the first 30 days and they don't do what we've asked them to do, but maybe Heather LaDue is having a really hard time getting contracts or getting bids, or we don't like anything, we could technically hang on to our contract a bit longer and not go into the second 60. I'm worried that we're going to get stuck with no landscaper like we've gotten stuck in the park. So, no offense, you know.
Jamie, I would not be so adamant if it was a lapse in service, but give me 14 days and I will have you 3 contracts. Write that down.
Okay, well, I can, we have a first and a second. I can move all those in favor for giving Monarch 30 days with this list and to invoke that termination clause. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second motion.
All those against? Hold on one second.
Aye, Jamie.
Sorry.
Against, Jamie?
Against.
Second motion, Eric?
What was the vote there? I kind of got confused. So.
You, me, and
Okay.
Paul are for, Jamie against.
The second motion is that the board retains jurisdiction over the request for proposal.
Why?
Time.
We
I
do
can
it
do
a
it
lot
faster
faster.
than man. I guarantee it.
Heather, do you have anything to say? Heather LaDue?
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute. As far as the RFP goes, that would be at the board's decision. But additionally, you want to make sure that these contractors are vetted. The problem is if you go out to bid and you don't have a vetted landscaper, ultimately you get what you pay for.
Not a problem. Margaret, my motion will include that I provide you 3 contracts and you can vet them through the management trust.
Heather, is that agreeable to you?
It's at the board's decision. If typically the management trust has formats for RFPs and legal
But what
requirements.
he's suggesting is that he gets the bids and then they get vetted by TMT.
So I would suggest that the walks happen with TMT so that I'm included on the forefront of the conversation in the event, so we don't have a he said, she said from the contractors as we proceed with maintenance. Like if Eric's saying, you know, making suggestions on, okay, you need to maintain this is how it was said, and you walk the community and they don't maintain it that way, at least that way management can layer that in support and, you know, and basically follow up with the contractors if they're not holding up to the standard of the contract.
Margaret, I would argue that TMT is our service contract, our paid agent to ensure that Monarch follows up with their contract.
Okay. Jamie and Paul, do you have anything to add to this conversation?
And that's a good point. You know, the management trust is not held up to their end of the bargain on keeping Monarch honest. That's why I would much rather
At
have
what
Eric
point-
do this.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's a fact. There's no argument about it.
Jamie, do you have anything to add?
I guess what is the management trust role, I mean, are we expecting Heather to go out and, like I suggested earlier, somebody to verify that this stuff is happening? Is that what we're saying is not being done? Or, because each time we give, I mean, we give Heather the list and she's made contact with them and they're not doing it.
Right. So who's
How is that TMT's fault?
it's absolutely TMT's fault because the compliance wants to say, hey, homeowner, water your lawn is brown, but the planting strips that are contractually obligated to Monarch are brown. There's a disparity in who is held responsible, and that falls on Monarch primarily as the service contract, but it falls on our paid agent, the management trust, to manage those paid contracts that we have.
So I have been in communication with the landscape company and have followed up with them. Their contract is separate. So as far as being the paid agent, I definitely have held up our end of the contract with communicating with the landscapers. And I also had made a suggestion last month to the board about going out to bid for landscaping because they weren't holding up and following through on what is stated in their contract.
Okay, Eric, would you like to make your motion?
The motion stands that the board retains jurisdiction over providing or obtaining the proposals for the landscape contracts, future landscape contract proposals, and that I provide those to you for vetting. I guess I have a question. What's this vetting process? Is it someone that's in bed with management trust? That there's some sort of financial
No.
or what's this vetting? Because I can go to Google and I can see reviews. So what are you doing? What's the vetting process that I have to go through?
Well, they have to be licensed and have all the proper requirements that are required from a contractor in our vendor packet. And then also they'll be required to provide references, and it has nothing to do with being in bed with the management trust. It's at the level of commercial landscape relationships that we have as far as business relationships, to be more professional. There's a good, background and that we can follow up on and talk to those other references that range in the Seattle area all the way down to Thurston County and, Southern Washington areas. So as far as the pool that we can tap into, it's more saturated than you going out there, and we have an efficient list of landscape companies, and you're going to get firsthand what the managers are having to deal with, like as far as my relationship with Monarch and going and following up and them not following through, but they're telling me that it's been completed, that the repairs are done. And then I'm out touring the community, and I saw just this last week that there are things that I'm waiting to see more green show in the parking strips. I'm waiting, and I did follow up on the weeds and everything. And as far as the detail. So firsthand, you're getting a lot more feedback on hands-on involvement with other landscape companies and how well they are on communication, how well they are on follow-up and follow-through. What does their maintenance schedule look like? What's included in their contract, what's not, if there's things that are missing out of this contract that need to be in there, having those kind of conversations of what actually works on a more saturated level.
Absolutely. Hey, let me pause for a minute. I need to apologize for the language I used earlier. In bed is not appropriate communication. I do have a question for Heather LaDue. I understand that the management trust manages Horizon and that their landscape looks pretty good. So who is their...
That's Monarch.
What the heck? So why...
And that's not, and I will tell you, I have had to help with that association, and I just drove through it this week, and I went back to Monarch and told them that their detail in Horizon Point looks awful.
So can you please compare the contract between the two? Because theirs looks better than ours. And it's the same subcontractor, the same landscaper. So what are they paying that we're not paying? Like what's the factors here that's the variable?
Well, I would have to review that contract, but I will share with you, I managed Horizon Point a long time ago, and it was a lot better than what it is now. A lot better. And Monarch wasn't on that contract before. So that's why I made the suggestion last month that the board, if the board is unhappy with the service, because I am following up with them, you know, on basically every 2 weeks, I'm touching base with them on where things are at, status updates, what's been completed. And then they're telling me that it's been done and things have been completed or that they've been scheduled, right? So we have the storm pond, the rear storm pond that hasn't been done yet. And I asked them when they can get this on the calendar. And this is where we're at the mercy of the landscaper because they have their other projects that they're doing and where can they fit in Cantergrove for the storm pond. Typically ponds are treated in spring and fall. And so I did let them know that we have to have this done prior to August 1st because Thurston County has requested the reports to be provided, which they said that it would be done prior to the end of next week. So.
Okay. So Eric has a motion on the floor. Can I get a second?
Yes, Paul, I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against?
Hi,
Aye.
Jamie.
I'd like to make a motion to have TMT go get bids for landscaping.
Second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Hi, Jamie.
All those against?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I guess we're gonna have to wait for next month for Heather Hensley's vote. Hold on, just let me write that down.
To be clear, I don't,
We have a situation here, right? We have to do better for the community. Okay, I get it, we're bipartisan, but we have a missing person that breaks the tie. We cannot wait till next month. We have to be better. Let's continue this conversation, please.
So you can take an action outside of a meeting. So at this point in time, it's tabled because there's a tie. But I would suggest that the board, we can do a follow-up email for the vote, the action to be taken outside of the meeting. So we don't have any hang up on timeline for going out to bid. Because ultimately, I think unanimously, the board wants to go out to bid. It's just a matter of if Eric Hunter handles the RFP or if TMT handles the RFP.
is that the main bid? Is that the main problem, Eric, about that bid that you are split on, that we're split on?
As far as the voting issue on the table, Heather's completely correct. It's sending Heather Hensley a note saying, hey, here are the two proposals. Which one do you choose? And she picks one and we move forward. Heather
An
LaDue,
action outside of a board meeting has to be unanimous. So either way, it will have to be unanimous. Otherwise, we have to wait for the next meeting.
Right.
What's the downside of letting Eric be in charge of this?
Can I make a suggestion? How about just Eric and I work together and collaborate together on going out to bid? And
I make the motion, exactly what Heather just said. Let's go. We're not
Okay.
going to make the community suffer.
I will second
Okay.
that.
Jamie, you second?
Yes.
Thank you, Heather.
you're welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I'm in favor also, for the record. Can we move on to?
Margaret, do we need to vote again for going out to bid? Or no, that was just it, right?
We just
That
did.
was it?
That's what we just did.
Right, there's a lot going on. The first bid was to farm out proposals, and the second one was who's going to run it. So we're good.
Okay. We can discuss the new business. Do we want to do unfinished business next or the new business division 5?